hear me or you can't?
There's a lot of echo. Hey, Adi.
Hey, a lot of echo. Okay.
I'll just update your headline.
Let me see if I can change it.
And maybe what I'll do is, yeah, I think we are live.
Is it
So
better?
that's fine, Adi, no problem. We can do the mic testing if you want to test the mic.
Is it better now, guys?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
it's audible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all good. Yep.
Okay,
cool.
great. Yeah.
Awesome. So welcome everyone. I hope you all are having a great day. I will start with a group introduction and then I will hand it over to Adi. So today we are talking about driving efficiencies with Dynamics 365 agents. My name is Rachit and I'm one of the volunteer for ANZ D365 FINOPS team, which is a user group based out of Melbourne. I'll quickly share my screen. Just give me a minute. Right. So a quick introduction about our group and then I will hand it over to Adi. So we launched this group almost 6 years back with a vision of creating a platform for Dynamics 365 finance and operations professionals to collaborate and learn and share their knowledge and grow with each other. Uh, we basically are focused on ANZ region, but we are open and we welcome professionals from every part of the globe. Um, we are present on LinkedIn, YouTube, and also we have a dedicated WhatsApp group for ANZ region. Our WhatsApp group has recently reached 200 people. We have almost 2,000 plus followers on LinkedIn, and as you can see the numbers on YouTube, where we have uploaded all the past sessions which we have conducted for knowledge sharing via this platform. Meet our group volunteers. Myself, based out of Melbourne. Faisal, who is joining us. Faisal is also a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional for last 5 years in a row. So thank you, Faisal, for all your contributions and leadership towards the group. Kamar is based in Melbourne. Amar is based in Melbourne and mostly found in Perth as well nowadays. Zishan is based in New Zealand, and Vishal has recently moved to UK. Before I hand it over to Adi, I also want to thank all our sponsors, One Dynamics, Ojas Business System, Integro,
I
and
think so.
Microsoft.
Sorry. I think so. You are sharing the StreamYard link there, Rachit. If you can please share the PowerPoint presentation. Apologies, everyone.
I was sharing the presentation. Give me a minute.
Yep.
Uh,
You may have to repeat everything whatever you have said.
no problem. Let's see if we
No
can see
problem.
the presentation now. Is it visible now?
Yes. Perfect. Just
Perfect.
perfect. Thank you.
All right, sorry for that mess up, guys, but just a quick rundown again on the slide. So we are ANZ D365 FINOPS team, a user group based out of Australia, headquartered in Melbourne, but we have done events in Sydney and New Zealand and Melbourne. The user group is based with a vision to create a platform for Dynamics 365 finance and operations and Power Platform professionals to come together, share their knowledge, and grow with each other. We are basically focused on ANZ region, but we are open and we welcome people from all over the globe. We are present on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and YouTube. These are the numbers of our members who have joined us. If you want to join us in these groups, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. Group volunteers, myself based out of Melbourne, Faisal, Microsoft MVP for last 5 years, based out of Melbourne. Kamar is based out of Melbourne. He's a finance solution architect. Amar is a supply chain solution architect based out of Melbourne as well as Perth. Zishan is based out of New Zealand. He's a finance architect. And Vishal Kohli is a solution architect based out of UK. Thanking our sponsors for giving us all the logistics we need and enabling us to do these events. So thank you to Microsoft, One Dynamics, Ojas Business System, and Integro. So I'll stop sharing and without taking much time, I'll hand it over to you, Adi. Adi, over to you for the session. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. You can hear me okay, Rachit? Just a thumbs up is fine. You guys can hear me
Yeah.
okay? Great. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Let me share my screen as well. Give me 1 second, and I hope I share the right screen. You guys can see my slide, and okay, great. I think that's good. Let's get started. So, hey everyone, thanks for joining. So today's session, we're going to be focusing on all the first-party Dynamics 365 AI ERP, AI ERP agents. So that's the plan for the first party. Now, from a in terms of objective from the session, what I want to do is provide a good overview so that you guys are across all the first party AI ERP agents, and then this can be used during implementation. You should be able to discuss this with customers, and even during implementations, we're hoping that this is not an afterthought or something that is delayed until after go live. So if you can have these discussions early, and talk about customers, discuss about the agents, showcase it, and if they're interested, getting them on board early will greatly help, and they'll see a lot of value. So from a yeah, I'll shortly get to what are the agents that we're covering today, but note that all the agents showcased in this session, they are in production ready public preview from version 10.44. Towards the end, I'll also showcase some resources where we have done some tech talks, and there's also a YouTube channel from Microsoft Dynamics fast track team called Dynamics Bytes, and I would encourage you guys to go there as well. So that this is where we're kind of trying to release bite-sized content, right? So Tech Talk and Dynamics Bytes, if there are two resources that I would suggest today, that's what I would request you guys to create a shortcut for. Okay. Now, from a let's get into the meat. So, from agents' perspective, what are the agents that is currently available, and what you guys can use? So, what you see on the top over here, and these are all the So what you see here, these are all the agents available in project operations. So you have time, then you have expense, and you have approvals. These are the ones that's available in project operations. And then you have the supplier communications agent fitting more in the SCM space. And then you have the account reconciliation agent, which fits in the finance space. Okay. So, and we'll get into the details of these shortly, but I wanted to start off by saying these are the 5 agents that we will be covering today as part of a presentation. Okay. So first we'll talk about supplier communications agent, then we'll get to project operations, which has time approval expense. Then we get to account reconciliation, and then we get into resources and queries. So let's get to the supplier communications agent. I think first we need to start with why, and kind of what was the need here, etc. So for the supplier communications agent, the challenge is right. The What is the challenge that this is trying to address, and more importantly, what is the role from the customer that it's trying to address? So this is primarily targeted at the procurement specialist, so mostly in the procurement area. And if you look at the current state and what does it look like, mostly, what's happening is what is it that when we looked at the agent approach, we found that most of the time was being spent in kind of addressing the purchase order changes, or basically any communication related to purchase order. So when I say this, what I'm referring to is from the time a purchase order is created and after it is sent, from then on, what happens in the entire purchase order life cycle? Because as a procurement specialist, you are constantly interacting with the vendor, and you're either sending a PO waiting for him to revert, you're sending a PO waiting for the vendor to get back, or there are delays. How do you do a follow up and all of that? So these are what kind of led to something being very time consuming, and it's a very manual process. And what we found also during these discussions were that the basically the procurement specialists, they were spending 50% of the day just managing supplier communications, hence the supplier communications agent. And the other challenge was also about how it was a very reactive process to supply chain disruptions when you're kind of getting to the supplier communication agent, right? And they were often orders are delayed because of inability to respond timely, update the system timely, or find alternatives, etc. And then also, there was a lot of human oversight, which was resulting in incorrect orders being updated, incorrect orders being confirmed, all of that. So, everything, when I refer to orders in the supplier communications agent space, I'm referring to the mostly the purchase order side. Okay, that's kind of where I'm heading with that piece. So this is kind of an overview of what are the challenges that we faced and that we came across, because of which there was a need for an agent to address this space. Yeah. So let's get to the current as is process, right? And again, like I was saying earlier, you'll have to consider this from the time you're sending a PO to a vendor. So first, you have sent a PO in to the vendor. Purchase order is created, it's approved, and all of that, and it is sent to the vendor. The next step that happens is where there is a user triggered manual process where they are following up with the vendor for confirmation. So this is basically saying, I've sent a PO to a vendor, I'm not getting any response, or the vendor has not responded on time. Has he received the purchase order? Has he confirmed the date, etc. Right? This became the first manual process where a procurement specialist was often involved. Then we get to um, vendor has responded now. So the vendor has said, okay, this is the item that I'm going to deliver, and this is the date I'm going to deliver. And we're not talking about EDI scenarios here. I just want to call that out. In many, for many customers that we spoke to, this was constantly happening via email, right? There were email exchanges. A vendor sending an email to the customer, basically saying that, okay, I'm going to confirm this PO is going to reach on a specific date. When a procurement specialist receives that email, he or she is then logging into the application and manually updating it. That is the receive PO confirmation piece. Now, when we go to the purchase order change request, what we're referring to here is vendors promise to deliver a certain item by a certain date. Obviously, there are disruptions, because of which vendor is going to now he's now sent another email saying, guys, I promised a certain date, I can't meet the date. This is a new date that I'm going to deliver the stock by. What does a procurement specialist do? They get an email, they look at the email, they manually go and update the purchase order in Dynamics 365 FNO, right? So that's the next one. And finally, we get to follow up on delayed purchase orders. So this is where the purchase order has, like, basically the vendor is not able to deliver on time, and now we want currently people in the procurement specialists are looking at those purchase orders and then sending out follow-up emails on the delayed purchase order, right? That it's not come yet, when are you going to deliver it? So this is the current as is process, and as you can see, all these, wherever there's a logo here, these are all manual processes, and that's what the agent it will be addressing in a way. Yeah. So if I look at the supplier communications agent, what is it doing? It is helping the procurement specialist to be more productive, where it's automating all these routine communication. We'll get to shortly how it is done and what does the communication look like, etc. But these are the manual processes where the agent is going to address and it's going to solve in terms of all the routine manual tasks that's happening, right? So follow up on the purchase orders so that the procurement specialist can focus on the higher value adding tasks. So today, the procurement personnel, they spend a significant portion in just these manual ones. And these activities, it's not only consuming time, but also driving up operational cost. So by automating these tasks, what's happening is the agent is then going to allow procurement teams to focus on strategic, high impact work, therefore improving both productivity and cost efficiency. And just on a side note, I hope all of you are aware of the business process catalog that we're doing. So that's why you would see a lot of communication from us, which is constantly referring to the business process catalog. That's a side note, not directly related to the agent, hence the reference to the business process catalog here, where we have published level 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but there's not a meeting on business process catalog, so I'll move on. So given that, what does the to be process for purchase order look like? So if you see here, what has happened now is we have changed all this to indicate now the agent is going to be doing all of this. So once a procurement specialist is sending a purchase order to a vendor, the agent is going to create a draft email, or you can configure it to say you want to send the email directly. So a draft email is basically it's drafted and then the procurement specialist can review it and then hit on send. In if certain customers we have found out that they're happy with it initially, after the 1 month they're happy with it, they want the emails to directly send and not add any additional tasks, then you can set this up to automatically send in a way, right? So this becomes the first process where an agent is helping in drafting these emails to follow up with the vendors, saying, hey, I'm waiting for you to confirm the PO, I've not received a confirmation yet. Okay, the next one is when a vendor has sent an email. Previously, the procurement specialist had to go in, look at those emails, and manually update the purchase order in D365 FNO. Here, you can configure the agent so that the agent is reading the email, and based on the purchase order number and the text in the email, or even if it's in an attachment in the email, it looks at that, it summarizes it, and it will update the purchase order. Therefore, the agent is doing that entire activity. Whether it is a confirmation date update, or a change in date, or a change in quantity, etc., all those will be updated by the agent automatically in D365 FNO. And then the last one is where the follow up on delayed purchase order comes into play. Again, agent can create a draft or send it for follow up, or directly send it for follow up, right? So with that, let's look at a few use cases for each of these boxes, and then we can look into a demo as well. Okay. So if you look into this use case, so think we like to use Contoso often. So I'm going to use Contoso as an example here. So Contoso Entertainment is a distributor and installer of home electronic equipment, and they purchase speakers, cabinets, and other supplies from various vendors, including Acme Supplies, for installation at customer site. So Julia, who's a purchasing clerk working for Contoso, wants the agent to follow up on purchase orders that she has not received a response from Acme yet. And Julia would like to draft an email to the vendor with the corresponding purchase order number as reference, right? So how does this look like in the system? Is so if you look at it, this is basically your how it looks in the application, and that's your immersive home experience. And then you have the agent activity on the right. If you click on that, it's now going to show you the agent has run, and it is then indicating that I'm going to send an email. Here is a draft email, which is basically saying I'm waiting for a confirmation date on the purchase order with the details of the purchase order. How do you configure it? You click on configure agents, and over here, you have the option to decide on what basis you want the agent to run, how frequently you want it to run, and on what parameters you would like this to run. So here we have said draft an email to follow up on unconfirmed purchase order, and you would like it with a what kind of tone do you want to use, and you're also specifying what would be the criteria here, right? So once this all this information is specified and it is scheduled, this is the trigger, right? And it is going to keep looking at all the purchase orders that meets the criteria that is specified here, and based on that, it's going to continuously uh, initiate those emails. Draft emails are going to be created. All that the supplier communication the purchasing clerk has to do is go to that immersive homepage, click on that agent activity, look at the emails, just hit on send, and it's done. If they don't even want to do that, they just want it to automatically send, then they don't even have to get into this workspace, right? And they can just directly head there. So that's kind of how the purchase order confirmation follow-up works. Now, if you look at the other use case, this is where Julia is now getting an email confirmation from a vendor saying, "I've received your PO. This is the date when I would be able to provide you the stock, and therefore let's kind of take it forward." So that's the update that Julia is getting. Previously, she would have had to go into the application to do it. Now, with the agent is now going to automate it. So, when I was talking about the immersive home space here, we need to pay attention to the agent activity. So, everything that the supplier communication agent is going to do, it's all in this space, right? Now, we have the purchase order follow ups, which is what we covered before. And this is where we are talking about updates made to the purchase order. So this was a scenario where there is an indication saying here is a confirmed receipt date, that we can uh, deliver. So the agent has gone in, read the email, and it's automatically updated. So everything that you're seeing here is done by the agent itself. So it said that you have a confirmation detected. This is the date, and you can see the details within FNO without going there. Once you click on accept all changes, and then you just say OK, it is going to automatically confirm that purchase order. So Julia did not have to go into Outlook or any other email and come here. It automatically read that email, and it was able to detect the change, and it said, okay, this is the change, there's a new date, let's take that forward. And as soon as she clicked on apply all suggestions, it confirmed that purchase order, right? So, and similar to what we showed before, you can configure this using that, the configure agent button, and then take it up. But that's a one-time configuration where you set up on what basis you want uh, the purchase order changes or confirmation to run in a way. Okay. So same experience goes even in a change request. So this is where, the same purchasing clerk is now receiving an email who's saying that there is a change to delivery quantity and change to receipt date and all of that. So based on that, they want to take the help of the agent to scan the email and send to the procurement team and identify the fields in the purchase order lines where the vendors indicated there will be changes, so that they can review it and accept. So our experience so far has been that when a team is looking at it and they're reviewing the changes, this is not something you would want to automatically update. You would want to review it, accept it, and then take that forward. So this is a so similarly, again, we have the immersive homepage. You would be going into the purchase order updates to take that forward. And once you click there, it has looked at that email, and here you have the changes detected. So it's trying to tell you that there are purchase order lines, and these are where the attention is needed, where there could be scenarios where, let's say even the vendor is using a different unit. You're using cartons, and in this case, they're using a unit called cassettes, etc. If you have those scenarios, you have the option to review the column mapping of basically saying, whenever you see a date like that, what does that map to in FNO? You have those options also. Once you've looked at everything, and you can then apply all suggestions and then take that forward, right? Now, this is kind of going into the configuration space and how is that set up. So if you look at the config, what's happening here is you are basically saying what is the mailbox that you want the agent to be monitoring, right? And then do it. So here what you're saying is when any vendor sends an email about purchase order to this email box, then show me a summary of changes and then take that forward. So that's how it is detecting. We have seen a lot of scenarios where, in the case of the procurement team, they're mostly having a shared mailbox. And when they are using here, it can be those shared mailbox. You also have the option to use an individual mailbox as well, and you can do a mix and match also, right? It's not just one or the other. You can do that as well. And I'll probably not show this again, given the interest of time. But what What I'm showing here is exactly the same as what we covered in follow up with vendor for confirmation. It's the same process where here what you're doing is you're following up on delayed purchase order where the vendor should have delivered, but you have not gotten the stock yet. So you're then configuring the system using different set of parameters to basically look at all the purchase orders that has not been delivered, and based on that you want to send an email, right? So that's kind of the experience that you would be having here. So it's very similar to what we showed before. You would go to the first follow up on PO, and then on the left you would choose follow up on delayed POs, and this is then showing the purchase orders which are not been delivered yet, and it has kind of already drafted the details, and based on that you can send the the email to the vendor. Yeah. Now this is a scenario where what you're trying to show is you have the option of um, in we spoke about that scenario earlier. Let's say the vendor is going to use the unit of um, each, and you're going to use pieces, or the other way around, right? And if that is constantly happening, then you can do that mapping in FNO to say either this vendor or is applicable to all vendor, or if it's a one time, you can choose that and then say on what basis you would like the matching to happen. So here what you've said is whenever I get an email from land packaging supplies, they would always put each, but that EA corresponds to pieces in our system. So just do that mapping automatically, so you don't have to. It does not come out as a flag every time it's doing that email read, or so to speak, and then you take that forward. So that's kind of how you have that option to take that forward here, right? So there's that. And I was telling this before, but just again highlighting, you can create as many follow up agents and purchase order updates as required. So you can follow up for unconfirmed orders sent more than 3 days ago, or follow up for the next 5 months, follow up on delayed orders for greater than 2 days and then greater than 5 days, etc. You have all those options available. Okay. So with that, what is the difference? Let's take a look at the supplier communications agent and look at the traditional workflow versus agentic workflow. If you look at the traditional workflow, just the number of steps and the manual effort of reading the email, extracting the data, finding the days for stock out, proposing decisions, and then send email to supplier. These are all, very step by step and time consuming activity. With what the agentic workflow is doing is it's able to automate a lot of those follow-ups. If there are changes to the purchase order, it's able to do that, and then all the user has to do is only review it and approve the final action, right? Otherwise there's nothing else that the user is doing. A significant reduction. So what we have seen is obviously the response time is reducing from hours to minutes. There's a lot of saving, cost saving especially, and more importantly, less errors, less human errors in the process. Yeah. So with this, if you look at the capabilities, it frees up the procurement capacity for strategic sourcing. It reduces the cost to serve, and it's boosting your operational efficiency. It's improving your PO's purchase order cycle time, and also helping in on-time supplier performance, and it enhances our supplier continuity, responsiveness, and the risk mitigation. So that's how the supplier communications agent take shape, how that's going to help, in the entire, for the procurement specialists, especially to help with the purchase order lifecycle and communications with suppliers. Yeah. With that, we will move to the next agent. And now we're going to get into the project operations agent, and then more specific, we'll start with time and approval. So, if you look at the challenges here, again, if I talk about time and approval specifically, so think about when we're talking about time agent, we're talking about time sheets, right? And creating time sheets, it's consuming a lot of time manually to create them. We in project operations, we are seeing a lot of customers having hundreds of employees reporting to them, project managers who have that, and when that is the case, Approving that also is a very tedious task in terms of trying to review all the data and then approve. And then what does that lead to, right? What's the goal with it is the quicker a timesheet is created, the quicker a timesheet is approved, then the quicker we can invoice the client based on it, correct? So that's the main goal with these agents, where how can we reduce that time period so that the invoice can be sent to the client quickly and without any errors, etc. So the challenges were currently that there was a lot of time which is consumed in manually creating them, approving them, which was leading to delayed invoice. That was then leading to revenue leakage due to inaccurate filing, etc. Right. So these were all the challenges, which is where the time agent is going to help. Before I get into the time agent, I just want to look at project operations holistically, because as most of you would be aware, there are various deployment types in project operations. So we have the core or the light. There has been a recent name change. So the core or light deployment type, which is a Dataverse only experience. Here you can use time agent and approval agent. Now you have the integrated with ERP deployment type, which is basically you have Dataverse and FNO. Time approval agent and expense agent can be applicable here. It can be used for this deployment type. And finally, what used to be called PMA or project operation deployment type of manufacturing, which is an FNO experience. Time and approval agent cannot be used here. You can only use the expense agent in this scenario, right? So we just want to call this out, that way it's understood which agent can be used for what deployment type of project operations. Okay. So moving into the as is process of time entry, and if you kind of get to what were the challenges in from a time entry standpoint, right? So in the case of time entry, again, think about projects. You have to. I think in our experience, we end up creating timesheets end of a week every time. I'm guessing Friday, 4 p.m., etc. And it's always a scramble trying to understand what are all the activities I did for the entire week. Let me try to hit that, the 8 hours per day and 5 days a week, etc. Right? So this entire process is currently manual. So we create time entries and then we are adding comments for each time entry. Okay. Then moving on, when we look at if there is any entry that's rejected, many times it is the project manager pinging you. You're not kind of getting any alerts and things like that. So it's a manual follow up, and then you have to make corrections and then and resubmit it. And finally, what you also have is the uh, respond to reminders from managers. So this kind of adding, perceived workload in an organization, right, which is already there. So this is the as is process prior to the agent experience, where it's manual all across, right? Now, how does the time agent help? So on a project, resources can now they can take the help of an agent to create a time entry which is based on their allocation to the project, and you can include comments based on meetings in their Outlook calendar. Again, this is based on you can give permission. If you do not want it to access Outlook calendar, it can be set that way, right? So it's based on you giving the adequate permission. Then what the agent does is it looks at your allocation and it looks at your calendar. Based on that, it will automatically create your time entry along with comments based on the access it gets to your calendar and everything like that. So if you had a meeting with a certain client from 9 to 11 a.m., it will create a time entry of 2 hours with the comments based on that Outlook calendar that it has accessed and received that. So that way, your time agent now is automatically creating your time entry, and the agent created time entry is going to help in saving numerous hours, because you're not having to key in the data. It is automatically populated. You're only reviewing, editing, and then submitting that, taking that forward. And what the agent can also do is it can track missing time entries and provide reminders. So for whatever reason, if you were supposed to key in 8 hours for all the 5 days of the week, on a Wednesday or a Thursday you keyed in 6 hours and etc., then it's going to track those missing entries, provide reminders that hey, you are missing 2 hours on a specific day, so that you are getting that reminder, and then you're updating it and taking that forward. So like I said, it is the purpose here, it's then finally ensuring that you can get to fast and accurate invoicing altogether. Yeah. So this one, like I showed in the previous slide, it's applicable on the Dataverse only deployment type, or the Dataverse and the FNO, which is together, right? So that's integrated with ERP deployment type. You do not get the time entry agent if you're only using the project operations in FNO or the manufacturing option deployment type. And that's a business process catalog reference. Where would this map to in your level 1, 2, and 3? Okay. So given that this is what the agent is doing, if you look at the same as is process, again, all of this is now going to be done by the agent. The agent is first going to auto create the time entry based on project assignment. Agent is going to create comments based on meetings in Outlook, right? So everything is auto populated. And then if there are any rejected entries, or you are getting alerts, etc. And here, what's also interesting, and I love that feature, is your alerts are going to be on Teams as well. So you get that alert on Teams. You also have the option to view your time entry within Teams, update it and submit it within Teams without even logging into project operations for web, right? Getting into that. So that integration is also available. So where you kind of view it, access it, update it, edit it, and submit, you can also use the Teams user interface fully for that. And then you also get a reminder for missed time entries within Teams. That way, you're getting that notification, which is then enabling you to go in and create and submit. Yeah. So this is where I was saying the first experience creating is in both project operations and Teams. Comments, you can do it, look at it, view it, edit, update in project operations and Teams. Alerts is a Teams only experience. That's where you get the alerts. When you want to make corrections and submit them, that is both in project operations and Teams. And finally, when you look for the reminder for missed time entries, that's a Teams only experience. Okay. So let's look at a use case. Contoso Consulting USA is a professional services company, and what they do is they implement ERP for various organizations. So Contoso will be using project operations integrated with ERP. This is what used to be called Resource Non-Stock, to manage all the ERP projects they implement, right? So it's basically, Contoso is a consulting company. They are all the ERP projects that they're implementing, they're going to be using project operations for it. In that scenario, as a consultant, we're going to take a scenario of Mohit, who's a consultant working on multiple projects in Contoso Consulting. Um, Mohit would like to create time entry, so auto create time entry for the week based on assignments and capacity allocations to the project. He would like to update the time entry with external comments based on meetings in his Outlook calendar. He would like to review the time entries and update comments, and finally submit the time entry for manager approval, right? So if you look at this entire process, first step and second step will be done by the agent itself, which is creating and updating the time entry. All Mohit needs to do is look at that, review it, make any updates, and submit it. And all of them can be done in project operations as well as in the Teams application. So now, if I kind of get to the system, now if you look at Mohit's week, he has submitted time entries for Monday. He has 2 tasks assigned to him with kind of 7 hours per day, and he separated, has 2 hours a day booked on different projects. So let's say it's called a CRM installation project. So looking at his working hours, he probably has 9 hours a day, which is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if he has to make use of agent so to submit time for the remaining days, so let's set the preferences first, right? So here is where you can set the preferences, where you can say, as soon as you go into agent, you can see you want to allow Copilot to draft time entries based on your assignment. So you can set that to yes over there. And then subsequently, you can also do the generate external comments for each time entry created by Copilot. You can set that to yes. And the last one is where you're giving access to the agent to access your Outlook calendar. That's where you can set that to yes as well if you wanted to access your Outlook calendar and then generate the external comments. And finally, you can select your time zone. Let's assume that Mohit is based out of India, so it's going to choose the India time zone, right? So as soon as you hit on save preferences, what's going to happen is that the agent is going to create the time entries for Mohit, and then it will kind of take it forward. So now when you look at the time entries that the agent has done, so it's basically looking at the assignment. So he's gotten an alert on Teams of saying, okay, this is what's happened. Monday, he has already submitted. And what you see is on Tuesday, he's got 9 hours of draft entries. And out of them, if you see there's also an asterisk next to it, that's an indication that this was created by the agent, right? And therefore that helps. And what Mohit can then do is if you want to see the details of this, he can then click on the view day option, which then shows the details of that specific day and take that forward. So when he's clicking on view day, so if you see again, all this experience is within Teams, right? You're not even, if you want to, you can click on open in web to access it from a web perspective. But right now, let's say it's only Teams experience. How Mohit wants to access it shows what the creator is and what is the source. So here it's looked at the assignments in the project and it's created it. And the last one is where it's looked at the booking, and based on that, it's created the last entry for 2 hours. And all the comments within that is based on the calendar, right? So this was the one based on booking, which it has created the entry for 2 hours. And that's the last entry that you see over here, right? And you can modify the comments, save the changes, and you can submit, right? So everything, Mohit did not even have to go into project operations. He was able to do that from Teams itself. And then you can click on different dates at the bottom and then access the data of that specific date. And if he wants to open in web, he can click on open in web and then take that forward to make modifications in web, right? Which is the project operations side. So that's kind of how the time agent has helped Mohit to create the time entry. He is able to look at the entries created, whether it's based on assignment or based on bookings. He's able to edit everything within the team card experience and submit it within here. Again, you can do it in project operations also. This is another place where Mohit can do it, and therefore it can help you, right? So now, if you look at the other use case, right, we spoke about creation, and then this is kind of getting more into the alerts process, right? So, Conteso is a professional services company, it's the same. And as a consultant working on multiple projects, Mohit wants to ensure that there are no missing time entries for the week. So, with the help of the agent, he would like to get notified for any missing time entries for the week. So, this scenario is where we was talking about earlier. Alerts, all alerts are from the only from the Teams card, right? So, what you can get missing time entries, you get a notification or alert for missing time entries for the week, and then based on that, they can update and submit the time entry to manager for approval, right? So that's your agent experience. It's only the alert that comes. The second step is manual, where he's doing that. So if you see here, Mohit has entries on Monday and Tuesday, and then he's going to recall a time entry to make changes. And after he's recalling it, he forgets to basically, update it, and then he's gone on with all the other activities in the week. So what happens is that then the agent, it detects the missing hours based on what he has entered with his work hours, right? And then, so if you see here, it's saying, I've noticed that you have 3 hours of time entry missing on Tuesday. I've identified some draft entries. It's giving all that indication and saying that this is probably where those 3 hours are by accessing all the relevant calendar and information there. And it's able to detect that. And based on that, Mohit can then hit on submit and then take that forward, right? So that is the approach of, if you have missed, it's still able to say you've missed. It's able to look into your calendar and then give a suggestion. Now let's go into the approval agent. So Mohit has submitted it, and then now it's gone to his manager. And then what is happening at the approval level? Here is where our requirements were that, basically, uh, the PM has got 100, in many cases 800 or 900 people reporting to them as part of the project, the large, very large projects, and it was a very tedious task to look at every time entry and keep approving it. So that was another good use case for agents, right? So now what an approval agent can do is that on a project, approvers can now take the help of an agent to review the submitted time, expense, or material transactions. And then the agent can identify entries that are ready for approval. So if there are, like, let's say 100 entries which is matching everything, so you can define what the policy is, right? And you can upload that policy, and you can say, okay, if it meets this criteria of 8 hours every day, it's not going over time, it's meeting that, per day, and the week should be 40 hours per week. If it's meeting all the criteria, change the status to ready for approval automatically. Then the agent is doing that. It's checking all the time entries, validating with the policy if everything is okay. Based on that, it's updating the status. So when the approver is going in, he or she can just filter on all the time entries which matches the criteria, and that can be automatically approved, right? And then after that, anything that does not meet the criteria, it can then give you another status of, basically saying it needs review. That way, they can reject it. They're only looking at the exceptions as compared to going through every time entry. So what can this do? This helps in cost saving, because it kind of gives you that efficient approval, leading to fewer correction of invoices and greatly improving the speed and accuracy of invoicing. I said that's the end goal. So this should help in achieving that end goal, right? If everything that's meeting the happy path is automatically set to the right status, helping the approver with that. So this again, it is Dataverse or Dataverse and FNO experience. You can't do this if you're only doing the FNO project operations. Yeah. So if I look at the use case here we're saying Surya is the manager of Mohit, and Surya wants to take help of the approval agent to review the submitted time entries and then approve the time entry with the status of ready for approval, and reject the time entries with needs review. So this is what the agent does. It goes through that. Everything that's meeting the criteria, it changes the status to ready for approval. Everything that is not meeting the criteria, it changes the status to needs review. That way, all the PM has to do is group by this, approve, group by this, review, and decide on the next action, right? And then they can update the entries to approval. So you have a couple of modes, basically a parameter entry. If you want the agent to automatically, instead of basically saying ready for approval, if you wanted to automatically approve it, you can do that. That way the approver does not even have to go in and filter by this status. The time entry is automatically approved. So that toggle is available. As an organization, you can decide, do you want it to set to the status and still make the project manager approve it, or do you want to automatically set it to approval? Yeah. So this is where the parameter setting comes into play, which I was talking about earlier. So if you see the parameter setting, you have the sorry. So you have the parameter setting, which is now going to take this to in the mode option. You have the option which says change it to classify or classify and approve, and then what you can do is this is where you have the approval policy, right? And then you update that approval policy, which will then, anytime you submit a timesheet, what's going to happen is that the agent is looking at your time entries, and then it is going to match it's using the LLM to match that with your approval policy. And once whatever is meeting that, it is going to say it is ready for approval. Whatever is not meeting, it will then expect that to take that forward, right? So, uh, so for an approval agent, the idea is you want to plug the revenue leakages and therefore convert effort into billable time effortlessly. You want to reduce the admin overload so PMs are no longer wasting time chasing entries, and you can improve the accuracy and reduce the whole DSO there, right? So that's kind of where the approval agent comes into play. Now, if we get into the expense agent scenario, so where's the expense agent helping you? This is where, if you look at the current state, employees, we kind of delay the submitting expense report. A lot of activities goes into maintaining these receipts, keying in all the data from that receipt into the expense, and we have multiple receipts to kind of track and then update it, etc. And then there's obviously the administrative overhead for finance team as well, right? This is where the expense agent, where what the challenges are with this, where there are delays in submitting it, often because of the extent of manual effort involved. So if you kind of look at this process as well, there, what you have is uh, this entire stretch where you're going to find and collate receipts across emails and mobile devices. We're going to upload the receipt to FNO or mobile application. You're going to create individual expense lines and then provide accurate descriptions for the report. These are all user triggered manual process conducted retrospectively, often leading to missed entries, right? And then if you think about this, once the expense entry is submitted, there's a respond to reminders from manager, and then you're going to submit the report for approval. So alerts shared in FNO mobile device without kind of context, and it's kind of adding to the perceived workload in an organization. So all these are those manual processes that is currently happening in the case of expense entries, right? So how is the expense agent going to help or address this? Is where the resources can submit the receipts via Outlook or Expense mobile app or D365 FNO, and the agent is now going to expense entries are going to be created from the submitted receipts, and it will also match the merchant and the category by scanning that, by looking into that expense entries, etc. So the agent created expense entry, which it can be organized by trips or projects. So if the expense is for a specific project, you can organize that by a project, which can greatly help in saving numerous hours in the preparation of your expense entries from receipts. And then the expense can just be reviewed, updated, and submitted for approval. So again, the agent is looking at your receipt, it is matching it, it is creating the expense entry. All that we as employees, or whoever's there, consultants, have to do is just look at the matched entries and review it, update it, and hit on submit. So this one is this is the agent in project operations, which you can do even if you're using only the FNO side of project operations. it's also applicable if you're using the F&O and Dataverse. If you're only using project operations Dataverse, expense agent is not available in that space. So if I look at that same process now, what's happening is all you need to do is you can share or upload receipts, email it, and once you email it to a common mailbox, it can create expense lines with all the information extracted. Agent can logically group expenses and create report with the relevant title or information, right? So all that the agent is going to automatically do, it will create a report description also based on the available information. And finally, using the agent, you can get reminders with the daily work context, and based on that, you can review, edit, and submit for approval. So if you look at this as well, the first experience again, mobile app or Dynamics or Outlook, you can share or upload receipts. Then the creating expense lines with all the information extracted. This again, you can do it in Dynamics. You also have the option of doing the whole entry, viewing it, just like time entries. You can do this also with your team's experience. Same thing for your logical grouping, and then when you're getting reminders with daily work context, all alerts, whether it's time creation or expense, etc., they are a teams only experience. So that's why you'll get the reminders, and then you can then review, edit, and submit in Dynamics as well as Teams experience, right? So that's how the uh, expense entry works. So I'll take the example of Contoso Consulting professional services company. They implement ERP. Lydia is a sales manager in Contoso Consulting USA, and she wants to submit the expense for a recent trip to New York, right? So what Lydia is going to do is first submit the receipt via Outlook for the recent trip, review the expense entries after receiving the notification via Teams, where Lydia wants to review the expense entries, and finally submit the expenses to her manager for approval. So how does this work? So you obviously have the first, sorry, you have the first option where so I'm not having the video to play. Okay, having some challenges with the video playing. Just 1 second, team. Let me figure this out. Give me 1 minute. I think it should work now. Um, okay. I hope all of you can see my screen. Yes. Okay. So so just confirming, can all of you see my screen? Rachit, can you confirm?
Yes, we can see it, Adi. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Thank you. So this is where, if you look at the experience first, you can decide on the parameters. You're enabling your expense entry, and then you can decide what's going to be your frequency, right? Do we want this to be running on a daily basis, or Do you want to be running on a weekly? If you end up choosing weekly, then you can decide on which day of the week you would want to do it. So for our example, we'll probably set it as daily. And you have the option. This is what I was telling before. You can group it by trip or by project if you want to definitely do it for a specific project. So in our scenario, we'll kind of do it based on a trip, right? So my expense reports are now going to be generated by trip, and that's where you're managing it on the feature management. There's a where the feature management where you can manage. You have to enable that feature, right, so that you can use it in a way. So now we're going to go to Outlook and then send an email to a shared mailbox. And then in that, I'm going to use expense entry as the subject and subsequently attach a parking receipt and then hit on send. So what this does is this is going to trigger the agent and to look at those expense, the receipt, and then create those expense entries. You can work in the background, right, and continue doing your work. And then what's going to happen is the trigger will be when you are going to get an alert. So this is where in Teams you get an alert of basically saying that, hey, an expense entry is created for that parking receipt. It's if you see it's given the title and then the merchant it's identified and the category and the details there. Within Teams you can hit on submit, and you can and the expense entry is submitted for approval, right? So again, this option is also available in the project operations experience as well, but I was kind of showing the Teams experience, and that's what's more helpful there. So after this is submitted, it's going to trigger the approval workflow and send it to the manager. So that's your expense experience from an expense agent perspective. So capabilities wise, outcomes is it's basically going to help you with ease of filing expenses. So no manual entries or I forgot to send a receipt and things like that. As and when you have a receipt, scan it, send it. It's going to create those entries for you. And there are also built-in policy checks which ensures compliance and reduce risks. And obviously the few errors and kind of helping in faster reimbursements as well, right? So that's where the expense agent is going to help significantly with that. So that concludes the agents in project operations. So just to summarize, the agents in project operations, we spoke about the time agent, we spoke about the approval agent. So time, which helps in creating a time entry. Approval is something which automatically does the approval based on your policy, and it will set the status and take that forward. And then you have the expense agent, which is doing your expenses, right? The last one that we have is the account reconciliation agent. So the challenges, this is a finance manager experience. So if you think about all your time consumed to manually reconcile ledgers, and this is often where we're talking about sub-ledger to ledger reconciliation here. That's where the account reconciliation agent is going to help the most. And here, often it is error prone and stressful if you think about it altogether. And obviously, there's limited time for strategic work with so much focus on data reconciliation. Finance teams have little time to engage in higher value strategic activities like financial planning and analysis, right? So this is the challenge that the account reconciliation agent is trying to address. And this is what the account reconciliation agent does. It helps in the automated subledger reconciliation. It can also flag discrepancies, which can then help you with to review and learn from corrections. And that way, it's also continuously learning from there, and it's kind of giving the whole real-time financial insights because it enables timely cash flow analysis and decision making, and eventually it helps in the operational efficiency. So what does the if you look at the experience without the reconciliation agent and with that, there is a lot of manual steps here. You're manually running a report. So you can do it now where you have to run the ssrs report, then you need to manually find the discrepancies, and then you're exporting the data to excel, researching transaction, collaborating, rerunning all of that. How the agent is going to help you is constantly monitoring the voucher description, voucher transactions. It can flag the discrepancies that exist, and which can then do the notification. And it can also help with what can be a proposal for action in a way, right? So it's helping you with all those processes. So if you look at what is the reason for ledger to subledger discrepancy, what has been the reasons? Often, and again, this should not be done, but we have seen projects where it happens, as all most of you would attest to as well. Control accounts are not restricted from manual posting, so control accounts are open for manual entries, which can lead to discrepancies. Same control account is assigned to multiple posting profiles. When that happens again, then you're increasing the risk of incorrect or overlapping posting. Or if you're having changes made to posting profile groups or control accounts, then you have a challenge. Or reversal or adjustments, it's not reflected in the subledger because that was done in the ledger and not via the subledger. So these are all the reasons which can lead to discrepancies. And if you look at the exception types and recommended actions, if it is in the subledger and not in ledger, uh, due to posting profile changes, then the action is either to create the journal entry, link transaction, exit without a change. If it is in ledger, not in subledger, which happens when subledger logic fails to post, reverse or link to matching subledger entry, then you need to create a journal entry, reverse it, and exit without a change. Or you have voucher account mismatch. So these are the various exception types for which, yeah, there are recommended actions, and that is what the agent is going to help you, right? So when the reconciliation agent evaluates the exception, it's going to recommend these actions so that you can take that and take that forward. So let's quickly look at a demo of this. So here you have the immersive homepage experience, and on the right you have those workspaces and agent activity. So you're going from reactive SSRS report to proactive, right? So it's to say you can still do it. Currently, the subledger to ledger reconciliation is for AP, AR, tax, and bank. Those are what's available right now. We are looking at inventory, projects, and fixed assets, and this is where we have moved from SSRS to a proactive workspace, where the workspace will show the exceptions and take all of that forward. So let's look at the workspace and the account reconciliation workspace there. So when you are clicking on that, it's also going to it's also showing you how many exceptions you have as part of this process, right? In within the account reconciliation, what are the level of exceptions? So currently it's showing you have about 10 exceptions in that account reconciliation space. So when we click on that account reconciliation, it is then going to show you what would be all the ledger to subledger reconciliation, and what is it that you would see over there, right? So let's click on account reconciliation. We'll just change the fiscal period as well, which has data. So just change the fiscal period to period 5. So this is going to be the experience when you see it over here. You can see that there is bank, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and tax. And along with that, the screen shows how many open exceptions and how many addressed exceptions are there. And this is done by the process automation, right? So we're yet to get to the agent. Everything that you're seeing here is by the process automation itself, which is then doing the ledger, subledger to ledger reconciliation. So when we go into the process automation, and this is needed, right? We need to look at that before we kind of get to everything else. And when bank and accounts payable are seeing fully reconciled, accounts receivable and tax is then kind of talking about exceptions. So this is where we go to process automation, and this is what decides the fully reconciled or exception. So in order to get to the agent, this needs to be set up, and we have this set up in the background to effectively run for certain duration, and that's how it takes it forward. So in in many scenarios, what we've seen is normally set to run for 6 hours or so. But I think for our example, we're probably going to reduce the time just for the demo, right? That way, it is run for long. It's running in a shorter duration. So here we'll set it up to 10 minutes for running the automatic account reconciliation process. So just to reiterate, this is a prerequisite prior to setting up the agent, and that needs to be done. Once this is done, then you can let the agent take over and take that forward. So here you also see when it was last run and what is going to be the next, when the next update is going to be. And when you change the fiscal period, we'll change the fiscal period and then take this forward. So over here, you can see how many open exceptions are there, how many addressed exceptions, reconciled transactions in account reconciliation agent. And you can hit the gear icon to then do a config. So if you see, each one of them correspond to one of the subledgers. So this is where you're indicating which subledger, what are the subledgers you would like to reconcile, and what are the accounts with which you would like to reconcile them with. And that needs to be configured so that this is run, and then the agent takes over. It's also telling you that for which entity, what areas do you want to then set it up. So all this, once this is done, and then we kind of get to you get to the action part, right? What we spoke about all along is how to run it, how to get the data and identify and how to configure. So this is where you kind of get to the data exceptions. So we clicked on a subledger, and then we're kind of getting to, these are all the 5 open exceptions that exist. And this is also kind of telling you what is that error, what is the exception. In this scenario, it's actually saying that there's a voucher amount mismatch, and that is the error that's happened there. And similarly, all the 5 vouchers are listed. When you then scroll to the area here, it's then kind of telling you, giving you the details as well, which is whether what was the account receivable subledger, and what was the ledger, and what was the discrepancy between the two. You can see on one side it's 30,477.04 and there's 476.34. So that is the difference between the two, which is where the voucher mismatch has come into play, right? And then when you scroll to the right, this is kind of giving you all the details that the agent has gone through to basically say what was the transaction posted, where did the reconciliation, what is the reconciliation which occurred, which failed, and then what can be the potential action. So you could look at posting adjustment, what is the fix suggested by the agent, and it's saying basically there's a difference of 0.70. So you can click on create a journal entry and then address it, or you could take these actions of reversing it, linking transactions, or accepting it without a change, right? Obviously, if you are looking at if the discrepancy matches the penny difference, then you can take it forward. You don't have to take an action. Otherwise, you can create a journal entry to then take this forward. Yeah, for that difference. So with this, now when you click on create journal entry, it will then take you to the journal form and to then help you with making the entries. The currently what it does not do, which is going to be coming up soon, is it is not taking all the data which is on the form and transferring it into that journal. So that is something we are expecting it to. It's going to come up as a feature update shortly. So when you clicked on the create journal entry, we are specifying the adjustment. What it's now doing is it's just taking you to the journal form, and it's at the moment it's not pulled all the data, which is something that we will look at capturing soon, right? And it's going to be in the product very soon. Okay, so that's the account reconciliation agent, and you can see here it's just taken to the journal form, which is what we will as a feature update. What we are planning to do is, let's say, have a default journal. It's going to create that journal and put the entry there of the 0.70 cents. Then you can kind of take that forward. So that concludes the all the agents. We spoke about the account reconciliation, the three agents in project operations, and the supplier communications agent. Uh, I happy to open it up for any demo, any queries. Sorry, and then we can take it forward from there.
Yeah. So thanks, Adi. I don't see any questions in the comments, but I did see some appreciations coming on our WhatsApp channel and LinkedIn by our community members and supporters. We had message from Brandon from Brisbane, who is appreciating what we are doing. Message from Rakesh Darge, he's Microsoft MVP. He's also thanking us for doing the session, and yeah, a few messages on our WhatsApp group. But yeah, I think what I would like to basically add towards the end is that these agents are really changing the way we interact with the application, and a lot of them are in preview. I think they are about to become generally available very soon. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I don't see any comments. Uh,
Sure.
as
Thanks,
well.
Rachit. So the one thing which I would like to add is, team, if you are having customers who are interested in agents and you need any help from Microsoft, please do reach out to us because it's an area where we see that it's going to help. It's going to help customers a lot in automating a lot of the work and increasing efficiency. So if you are having those scenarios, let's not push it to a after go live. We will look at it kind of a scenario. We only covered first party agents. There are also obviously options where you can build your own agents, etc. That's something we are looking at. We'll have a session, we'll discuss with ANZ, Rachit, Faisal, and the team as well for that also, where how can partners build their own agents in other scenarios and then take it up. But we wanted to start it off with at least saying these are the first party ones which you can use. It's available now. It's production ready public preview, so there's nothing stopping you from using it even in production. It will be supported by Microsoft. It's not GA yet, but you can still use it. So there's nothing stopping you from that. And any help that's needed, again, do reach out. We are actively looking at supporting partners who are wanting to adopt. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I see a few questions, Adi, if you want to take. One question is around where do we monitor the agent performance and errors? Like, is there any log where we can view some errors and performance?
So with regards to the logs, most of it is kind of it is built in, meaning that from an error perspective, right? So if I look at the account reconciliation agent, we are talking about how when you click on the what is the exception, it is telling you, it's giving you an entire run out of this is what is the exception and this is where it is. From a if you want to check all the logs, that's something I'll have to look and get back as to. I can revert on this of basically saying where you can look at the logs as to what was the transaction it went through and how it went arrived at us. So that's something I can check. What anything
Thanks.
else, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there is one more question. Are agent-driven decisions auditable? Like, is there a log of who flagged what and what got approved where during the agent journey?
Yeah. So yes, short answer is yes. So it is going to give you the entire tracking of what it did and how it did, etc. That's we look at giving those details in the next one. I think we are looking at a session on C as well, etc. So we'll try to give that log and errors on both of that. Yeah, should be okay. Okay.
Thanks, Adi. We know we are a bit over time. But there is an appreciation from Manika and Gopal,
Yeah.
and I think he has also a question. Do we have option to customize out of the box agent? I believe the answer is no. It's a package
Not
solution.
it's a it's a valid question. Not at the moment. It's something that we are working towards something, but uh, it's not at the moment. No. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Adi, for your time. I'll just do a closing speech. So, thank you all for joining us today for this exciting session at ANZ D365 FINOPS Team User Group Platform. A big shout out to Adi for generously sharing his knowledge and experience with us. And thank you to our sponsors, One Dynamics, Ojas Business Systems, and Integro Solutions for their continued support in making these events possible. Most importantly, thank you everyone who joined us, tuned in into the sessions and making it possible and a great success. So let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on LinkedIn. Follow our channels to receive notifications for our upcoming meetups. Anything you want to add, Faisal? Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Adi, for all the insights. And definitely, we look forward to working very closely with you from the
Sure.
community and also from the partners' perspective.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thanks for organizing this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Take
Thanks,
care.
Adi.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.